We find resources everywhere. Just look for them, look after them, take care. Ragna Gullbrekken, she is a bachelor student here, but she is also head of the theater group, Revyen, at this place, and she will start this second session with a song. Heartily welcome and thank you for what you're doing.
I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. I am so close to you, I'm so out of control. I don't know how to help, there's nothing I can say. From heaven down to hell is a short way. And if I could let go of the hope that maybe I could settle for just being with you, baby. Every night I lay me down, fold my hands and close my eyes. Every night I pray for time. One more moment, one more try. I want you to come back, oh, lie down here in my arms. I'll light up every dark on your way. Baby, all of your pain, you can lay it on me. Yeah, you can lay it on me. It's been so very long, but you're still here with me. And though I'm all alone, I'm thankful every day. I'm trying all the time, I know how bad it hurts, but we are on the line that cannot let us burn. And if someone out there has a cure for this shit, I'd give my all to get to it out. Every night I lay me down, fold my hands and close my eyes. Every night I pray for time. One more moment, one more try. I want you to come back, oh, lie down here in my arms. I'll light up every dark on your way. Baby, all of your pain, you can lay it on. I want you to come back, oh, lie down here in my arms. I'll light up every dark on your way. Baby, all of your pain, you can lay it on me.
Ragna Gullbrekken, Goldbrekken. Great. Internet of Things is also an opportunity. We're happy to have with us Anne Kvam from the Telenor Group telling us about the opportunities by using internet in a sustainable way. Give her a big hand.
Thank you, Sven. Let me see if I can start up this. I assume pushing one. That was what was needed. So thank you for inviting me. I'd first start to say that it's a pleasure for Telenor to participate and be a partner in the Global Opportunity Report in 2019. Telenor represents the connectivity in this partnership. And we believe that connectivity and ICT, information and communication technology, is at the heart of global economy. And it's also a very strong solution or an enabler to address a lot of climate change, greenhouse reductions and mitigation actions. So we believe it's really at the core of that. And where does Telenor fit into this? Connectivity, Telenor, it fits really in the center. I mean, Telenor has got two statements representing its purpose. It's connecting you to what matters most and empower societies. So the topic we're addressing today, IoT is about connectivity and technology development. So that really is about connectivity, and climate change and other SDG goals that we are addressing is really empowering society. So for Telenor, this is a very, very good and natural fit. So I'm going to do 3 things for you over the next 10 minutes. I'm going to start off talking a bit about what's IoT. I'm pretty sure that at least there's one person in the room here who's like, I've heard it so many times, I'm not really sure what it's about. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on what's IoT and also link it to reports and figures and numbers as for how that's linked into the solutions addressing climate change and other issues. I'm then going to talk a little bit more about Telenor's role in the IoT development and finally move on to some specific concrete examples where we see this play out in Norway today so that you can get a bit more kind of actual knowledge about what this is in practice. So IoT, Internet of Things. This is all about how devices are connected. Device to people, device to device. How all of these things are, what we would call in Norway, dingser, can start talking. So, on the one hand, and that's kind of a development that we've seen for many years, data. Data is kind of the new oil, right? Data and information, all of this data that we have available. And if you can take that data and start connecting that in new forms and ways, that has an immense impact on what we can change. And that's what's happening. So what you can see here is like, this is when your car starts talking to your washing machine, to your phone, and everything is interconnected and talking and sharing data. So we think this is a game changer and has the potential to cut global carbon emission, reduce resource intensity, and also stimulate economic growth. There was a report made a couple of years back called Smarter 2030 that identified a number of sectors where ICT, information and communication technology, can deliver significant carbon emission reduction. And they stated back in 2015, I don't think that figure has gone down, but they stated that 20% carbon emission reduction would be enabled by the ICT industry by 2030. So, I mean, that's a huge potential. And it goes across a lot of sectors. And of course, there are lots of interdependency. It depends on that, companies need to work with other businesses or with politics and with policies and with society, but the potential is there. And it's not only kind of to generate revenues or cut emissions, there's a whole lot of other impact, and I don't think we should forget that. Lisa kind of brought it up, the broader aspect of SDG. There's a lot of other on health, on poverty, and a lot of other issues that can be addressed through it as well. Sven, you also mentioned Davos, and I think a study that was actually published in Davos now, just recently, called Realizing the Internet of Things, a framework for collective action. That said that 84% of IoT deployment are currently or have the potential to address the 17 SDGs. A huge potential that we see. And some of them will address many SDGs, not only one, but cross-fertilization. So this was a little bit about IoT, what it is, and how it will impact the climate change. Many of you might not know that Telenor is actually one of the top 10 global players in IoT. We have more than 12 million SIM cards, and we have 160 experts dedicated to IoT across the group. So we are really in the front on the IoT. And the magic will, of course, also further increase when we combine 5G into this. I mean, IoT works on 4G. 5G will even accelerate this further. And as you know, 5G is also on agenda for Telenor and something we're rolling out. IoT is seen as so important for Telenor. We put it up as one of our strategic ambitions for 2019. We think we're kind of at the breaking point where IoT has proven its worth, and now we can start scaling and commercializing. I said I was going to move into a more specific and concrete example. We're going to hear about Oslo and the European Green Capital later on. But I want to mention an example here, smarter transportation in Bodø. So this is last summer, the Norwegian government had a competition among large cities in Norway to find good solutions for both today's and tomorrow's challenges. So 5 cities were awarded a prize. Telenor was part in 3 of those cities, and including the winner, that was Bodø. So this concept, smarter transportation in Bodø, they won 50 million kroner in financial contribution to realizing their projects. And there are various projects going on, robust and secure mobile infrastructure, lots of IoT-related solutions, mobility analytics connected to the public flow and transport. So data on public relocation and tourist flows, and also environmental measurements. I think I heard that they have this kind of sniffer bus. You know how you can, when you measure climate, you can put up these measure stations. They're static, they're placed around in the city, and they measure the environment. Well, instead, let's put them on buses. They move around, they can sniff, and with IoT, the devices can talk to the base stations and to other hubs where this data can be gathered. So it enables a completely different picture that you can see happening. So Tromsø is a good example, and you can click in and Google more about what Tromsø is doing. So then, just a little good luck to Oslo. We're going to hear more about that. I'm excited to hear more about that later on today. They're the European Green Capital of 2019. And we think it's great. I mean, Oslo is showing then to be kind of a hub of green tech ability. And we see the urge and the demand coming. We see fantastic services like Too Good To Go, that cuts down on food waste, car sharing, bicycle-only food deliveries. So we see also this mix of how politicians, developers, and the enthusiastic developers, consumers and their drive for change, and the social pressure is kind of creating a change and a drive. And we believe that, we want to wish good luck to Oslo, and we also believe that Telenor can be part of enabling those solutions and reaching those ambitions through our IT and through the technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. We could have also invited you to the panel discussion, because with your huge experience and competence within the area of finance, we would have loved to, but you can join us afterwards in the discussion. Now we will have a panel, so please, the 3 panelists, can you please join us? It will be Monica Mee from Norsif, and she will explain what that is. I mean, taking care of the whole business area of investment. It will be Jan Erik Saugestad from Storebrand, and Caroline Dale Ditlev Simonsen, that is a professor here at BI. So I would like to start by asking you about the role of finance and investment and what we now are discussing. I mean, from really risks into opportunities and sustainable solutions. Jan Erik, may I start with you? I mean, how do you think and what do you do in Storebrand when it comes to this?
Well, firstly, thank you for being invited here, and thank you to be part of the Opportunity Explorer. And for those of you interested to learn more, look in the Explorer. But I'll give you a snapshot. I mean, we've been at sustainable investment for more than 20 years. I have heard many calls to action, and there's nothing wrong with a call to action, but it's even better with action. And that's, that's been our motto. So we're really trying to push to find real solutions, like the ones in the Opportunity Explorer, where there's a global equity fund with a carbon footprint, which is only a quarter of what we would normally have. Green bonds, blue bonds, I can go on. But I think the key has been that this is a journey. It has been a journey, and it's still a journey. And we have moved from a focus on exclusions and what not to invest in, into a focus on solutions and what to invest in. We have moved from aligning our portfolios towards the sustainability goals, towards creating an impact and bring us forward towards the sustainability goals. And we've moved from being concerned about governance to actually stepping into ownership. So it's been a long journey, and I'm encouraged that more and more people are getting on the train, so to speak.
Just briefly, what made you change? Because you were also in the forefront when we started to discuss sustainability and finance. And what made you change?
Well, basically when we started in the mid-90s, we were quite... nobody really knew what we were what we were doing and what it was all about. I think if we speak about climate in particular, I think what has really changed the debate and changed the way more and more people invest is that we got new voices into the debate. It's been a science-based debate. We've been provided with tools to measure the impact of what we're doing. And that's made it possible to bring it down into measurable effects. And I think that's one thing. And of course, for I would say most of you sitting here, i.e. the coming generation is really putting pressure on politicians and decision makers to make a difference.
Thank you. Monica, you represent, may I say, the whole finance interests in a way. There are many companies being part of your organization. Just briefly tell us about Norskif. What is it before you give your views on this finance sector?
Norskif is an association for asset owners and asset manager services that want to develop this area. And it should not be norm-based, so everybody that's a member, they don't have to follow a given strategy or whatever, but we try together to exchange knowledge, experience, and drive the area forward. So you can see a meeting place, and we have now, I think it's 45 members. It's everything from the oil fund down to family offices having investing money.
And what's your views and what's your interest? How do you see the change from focus on the risks into the opportunities and sustainable solutions?
My interest is that I think it goes too slow, far too slow. But I think that's many reasons for that, because our system, our structure in our society today, everything from education to our mental models, to our macroeconomic models, they are kind of working against us of being sustainable, even if some of the actors is really trying. They can do a little, but they can do much more impact if we change the structure. So it's a long way to go and a lot to do.
What do you think we should do?
I think competence, talking here today, is crucial, because there's so many different levels of competence, and I will say a lot of lack of competence. And even if you have science-based knowledge, Per Espen was so kindly to inform me about another study saying that it takes about 30 years from a new idea is kind of proved by science to it's actually out in the world. It takes 10 to 20 years to get into the textbooks and now people are going out. But we don't have those time anymore. So I'm also leading a committee calling Academia in Norskip, among others. I'm very engaged in how we can learn different, also the way we learn, the way we cooperate. We have to change, both to speed up and to kind of fast get on the same page on understanding the problem and understanding what to do, even if you come from different perspectives and sectors and everything. Because there are also scientists that suggest good solution of how to move faster forward. And the last thing I say, we also have to learn new kind of subject, not only finance and macro and micro and all that, but also we have to relate more to complexity, understand complexity, holistic way of solving problems. And also I really believe in future literacy, which is maybe not that known word. It's more, we really have to train our ability to have scenarios. They are not science fiction, but plausible fictions, we can call them. Because every decision we take today has a great effect on the future, and if we don't control or are conscious about the way we actually look at the future, we could take a very wrong decision, which could have a very negative impact. We want positive impacts. Yes.
Caroline, you are professor here at BI, and you have followed, I mean, from corporate social responsibility to corporate responsibility to sustainability. Now we're here, and you have also seen from what Storebrand has been doing for many years, and the other banks in Norway also, and how they change in their investments. How do you see the picture in Norway and in the rest of the world?
Well, yeah, I worked for Storebrand as a head of environment until 2000, and then I was head of corporate social responsibility. So, and then I understand there's so many questions here.
We're all part of the family.
Yeah, it's so many young questions here. So I continued at BI to take my PhD in that field of sustainability and responsibility. And like you said, this concept of ethical investment and investment criteria has been gone for a very long time, since the Quakers started excluding companies having produced tea with slaves 200 years ago. But it's only like the last 20 years companies have started, or investors have thought about sustainability as a business opportunity. Something that companies which are behaving sustainable have a bigger chance of making money in the long run. But still, I think like as an academic, we have to think ahead and try to be in forefront. And I think we're talking very much about growth today. Growth is important, and we can do a lot with new technologies. But we have to keep in mind that if everybody lived like us in Norway, we would need 5 planets. That's our footprint. So we have to start to think like about growth is one thing, but or in financial growth is important, but we also have to think what's really the point here. We want to be happy. We're not measuring happiness in the right way. We should find out how that works. We know more things, we're not more happy. We have our consumption has grown 5-fold since 1990, and our happiness is flat, not more happy. So I think we should start to discuss that too. Technology is good, it's important, we need that, but we have to take a step ahead as well.
Jan Erik, you told us that you started to say what you shouldn't do. I mean, now you say we will not invest in coal. And you have also said we will challenge the future of oil and gas and challenge the Norwegian society in a way. How do you think now, and why do you do it that? It's risk analysis, it's because it's good for future business. I mean, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I just wanted to, well, I'll do. And in brief, yeah. I mean, I could say it's the right thing to do, but it's the smart thing to do as well. So speaking of coal, clearly, if you look at the cost in general, the cost of fossil fuels are going up. And, you know, if you try to listen to regulators, the price of carbon will increase. While at the same time, the cost of any renewable is declining at the you know, almost exponential pace. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And being a long-term investor, we are, of course, trying to be ahead of the curve, because when everybody realizes when is now, then it's slightly late from an investment perspective. But, it's a balancing act. We don't want to be too early either. So, we will need oil and gas for many years still. But we've certainly made a push for the worst part of the fossil chain, coal. And I would, to give a glimmer of hope, maybe. When we started back, we were faced with, even from academics, saying any kind of restriction on what you can invest in is negative. And today, I would say that myth, if it's not completely dead, it's certainly a more balanced view. Actually, they say restrictions on what you invest in might be good risk management. But if we want to move forward, we have to move away or further and look into solutions. So that's what we're pushing for and working hard to do.
Thank you. Monica?
I think we have to, if you put in the time dimension, it's two things. You have short-termism and long-termism, but you have also history and the future. And especially, I think we are standing on the threshold, which is kind of a tipping point when you're looking back and forward. And the discussion we had for 20 years or so, if ESG equals sustainability, is that profitable or not? I don't think that will be a discussion going forward. It's not, if you're not sustainable, and now science is supporting this quite as extensively, you will get less performance than those who focus on it. And I think also we should start to understand that's why I'm so into competence. You have to understand both the risk but the opportunity as well. And today this is very much about the opportunities. But again, you really have to see into the future and make some assumptions, which is we are very fond of service and looking back in fundamental factors, which is also based on history. And there is a kind of change in norm and way of thinking to move from that, what we have used to do, to how we are going to handle this going forward. And as mentioned earlier, the economic forums, the risk they just were exposed in the report for 2019, which was exactly the same as 18. The 10 most was, out of those 7 was climate. And one was weapon, and the 2 others was cyberspace and data. So being up at agenda that high, you should not be in doubt anymore what to do.
Just between us, and the rest of the world, if we are going to invest our money, where would you put them? What's your advice? In the energy sector?
It's more, I will more assess the company or person that will maintain my money and how they ask them questions, like how are they assessing the factors, on what basis are they investing, how are they doing it, and how do they weight the difference, and which sector do they believe in, which is sustainable, what are they focusing on, and that kind of thing. More than one, yeah.
I will end up with Caroline, but
I just
briefly.
I'll be brief. And basically, we have at least identified within the solution space 4 areas that we believe are very attractive. So one is climate solutions. The other is sustainable cities and infrastructure. The third is any company within circular economy. And the 4th one, which might be surprising, is empowerment. Companies that provide and will facilitate, whether it's health, finance, education, to a wider part of the global population.
So who are the drivers, Caroline?
Well, it's the BI students are the drivers. I think today's companies know a lot about sustainability, and they're willing to want to do things or act responsible, but it has to pay off. Investors like these companies and are finding companies who are dealing with sustainability in a way that makes profit, but so many more other companies could do that if the government put the right structure around it. And given that the companies are good in the CSR field and sustainability, and the students from the Norwegian business schools and business schools internationally as well will even improve that. But I think the challenge now is the public sector, the government, the regulations. The effect, for instance, on the lower fees on electrical cars, we see how that changed the whole car market. And we'll see that with so many things. If the laws and the regulations and the fees are changed to make the companies more sustainable and our consumption as well. So I will give the challenge. Well, I think the one who's kind of missing here is and needs to speed up is the government first of all.
So what you all have said is that you would like to have the right facilitation for the right investments for the future of the good societies. Is that so? Then I think we say thank you so much and good luck with your investments. Can you imagine that Oslo actually became the European green capital this year? How was that possible? And what will they actually do? Please welcome the governing mayor of Oslo, Raymond Johansen.
Yeah, it was summer all the time, so it's exactly how it is here in Oslo. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you about some of the climate risks and how we make that into climate opportunities. Yesterday, presentation of the report that document the current environmental changes that take place on Svalbard shows the urgency needed. Svalbard has already experienced a 1-degree temperature change every 10 years for the last 40 years. Climate change is simply too important to leave for someone else, somewhere else, at another time. We need to act here and now. 2/3 of Europeans lives in cities. Cities represent 80% of the global economy and 70% of global emissions. Urban growth and global emissions have no boundaries. Oslo is also growing. Estimates shows that we will have another 100,000 inhabitants by 2030. The biggest climate and environmental challenges we face originates in cities. No doubt that we are a part of the problem, but obviously we are also a part of the solution. This year, Oslo is the European Green Capital, a title we awarded by the EU Commission in competition with 13 other European countries and now cities. Oslo is leading the way in some important areas. We have one of the most ambitious climate strategies with goals in accordance with the Paris Agreement. Therefore, it's so controversial. Because we are digging into the details. That's what we have to do to achieve the goals. And as you know, it's quite difficult. We are the first city in the world to introduce a climate budget where we count CO2 the same way we count money. We have become the EU EV capital of the world because of the cooperation between the state and the municipality. The state made it cheap to buy, and the municipality made it easy to use. Oslo is a pioneer within circular waste management, where, for instance, food waste is transformed into biogas for the city buses and waste trucks. Oslo is in process of implementing all-time high investment in public transport. We are, which I find very important, we are using our purchasing power to enhance the green transition, for instance, by creating a market for fossil-free construction sites. Oslo buys goods and services for 25 billion Norwegian kroner each year. Therefore, we want to use our power to affect the market, to push it. And I'll tell you that the private business, they are more than ready. It's the public sector which is not bold enough. To me, being the European Green Capital is a recognition that we take the challenges that we are facing seriously and try to turn the risks into opportunities. We all know that we live in a special moment in time. We are the first generation who can see climate changes with our own eyes, and probably the last generation who can do something about it. Global climate change is also local climate change. Here in Oslo, transport is responsible for 60% of all the emissions. By making it easier to use public transportation, less people will be dependent on private cars. This is a win-win situation. Not only do we reduce CO2 emissions, we also reduce air pollution and queues on the road. And air pollution is about health. And we are spending millions because of asthma and allergy. So for me, it's important also to focus on the health issue, not just the climate changes itself. And I think to communicate with the people, it's easier. It's easier. And proudly, I have to say that politics works. The air quality in Oslo is no better than it has been for 10 years. As traffic goes down, so does pollution. but also introduction of new technology, such as Euro 6 technology in heavy trucks, is helping in reducing emissions. When imposing regulations, we have to strike a fine balance between the carrot and the stick. And we need a broad support from the public and the business sector if we want to succeed. I want the European Green Capital Year 2019 to be a motivator for a green transformation for our citizens and our businesses. With more than 190 partners and 350 events, we aim to inspire Oslo's population and companies to make sustainable, friendly choices, be it in the homes and in boardrooms. We have ambitions, environmentally and climate targets, but we cannot achieve them on our own. Because the city only controls less than 10% of the emissions in Oslo directly. Indirectly, if we also take our incineration plant at Klemetsrud involved in it, because alone that plant is responsible for 15% of the emissions. Therefore, I visited the European Commission yesterday, talking about the need for CCS at our incineration plant, because technology is definitely an important part of the solution. The good news is that we see that many companies are inspired by the European Green Capital Award and makes us use of the opportunity to increase environmental ambitions. In the European Green Capital Business Programme, we challenge the business community to do more in 2019. We ask the companies actively request and work for emission-free transportation of goods and services. Listen, IKEA is one of the companies who has taken on our challenges and will present a solution for emission-free transportation in 2019. Aspelin Ram has accepted and challenged to request fossil-free or emission-free construction sites in 2019. Posten and Bring will accelerate the phasing of electric delivery vans and aims to make their operations in Oslo 100% renewable. And Ruter introduces an additional 70 electric buses in Oslo because we are the green capital in 2019. Our door is open to anyone who is willing to take on the challenges. We know that it's difficult on an individual level and in organizations. But I believe that those who are able to see business potential in innovative solutions can help curb climate change. We will also have an advantage when the green shift really gains speed. Oslo has the size. We are small enough for solution to be tested out, but at the same time, big enough to make our solution scalable for larger cities. Take the chance and use Oslo as a testbed for new solutions. Some say it takes courage to make these changes. I will turn this statement into a question and say, who dare not to make these changes? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ramon. We will have a discussion now because we have said we're going to talk about smart cities, but definitely also what you said about good cities. So, Per Espen and Anne Beate Hovin, please join us. Give them a hand. I would like to start with you, Per Espen Stoknes. You're an associate professor here at BI, but you have also been a politician. We have seen you in Parliament as well. But I would start to ask you as a professor, because you know so much about what motivates us. And from now knowing what we need to do, what is right to do, but to do it, please tell us. I mean, how can we make all the good ideas Raymond explained us to become a reality and to even push further?
Thanks, Sven. First, before I leave my politician hat off, I have to ask Raymond, are you sure you're with the right party? Because you're speaking as if you were from another party.
I have to take that one directly because I definitely believe in regulations. I believe that the state itself has to put laws forward. And I don't want individually to pinpoint each other and say, you have to change, we as a society have to change. And as a good social democrat, I think that's the right way to put it.
And now the professor.
Yes, dear audience, today, let's look at what the research says. What does actually motivate people and what does not? First, just to remind you, catastrophic facts, speaking about ppm levels in 2100 and a 4-degree warmer world by 2050, does not make us change behavior today. That's very well known. So what can we do? What does motivate behaviors today? And social psychology and social science, along with organizational psychology, is very, very clear. The largest impact comes from peer pressures. So if I believe you, Monica, is going to do something, then I want to do it as well, because I like you. I want to be a little bit like you. If my neighbor does something, then I want to do it. If my colleague has it, I want it too. We always, in the back of our brain, because we are social animals, comparing ourselves with what are others doing. And not just that, I don't necessarily need to know what you're doing, but we have something called social norms, and the definition of that is that what I think you would do in the same situation. And this is where it gets cool. So just to take one very fresh research case that I don't think any of you have seen, but related to what Raymond was speaking about, you said politics works. And it does work, because if we do look at how EVs have been spreading in Oslo, and Oslo is now the world-leading capital in terms of EV persons, it's very interesting to ask this question, is it just the regulations, is it just the frameworks, or is it also something to do with the psychology? So I invited 2 psychologists to research this based on the purchasing registers of electric vehicles in Oslo, to see if my neighbor gets an EV, does that increase the likelihood for me buying one as well? And they spent a year going through all EV purchases and plotting them on each street. And then see how many months is there between registrations in the same street or not. And luckily they presented these results just now this autumn, and please click. Yes, if neighborhood effect did not exist, that should be gray, everything. This is the map of Oslo. The red ones are streets where a neighbor gets one, and then I want one too. So there is a huge statistically significant over-accumulation of EVs along the red streets. But what about the blue ones? Well, they show the neighborhood effect or the social peers in reverse. So if there is nobody else in my street getting an EV, then I don't want it either, because it's stupid. Nobody has it. I don't think you will get it, so I won't either. So that's the blue one. So if this is no social psychology effect, that would be a gray map. But just look at it. That's the way it's actually moving. Then the second thing I just want to mention, if I'm not going over time, is that it has to be easy. If it takes a lot of effort, if it's very hard to get a charger, if it's long queues, very inconvenient, then I don't want it either. So the combination of social norms, what we call nudging, behavioral economics, so that it's the default, just the thing, the simplest thing I can do is this. Then we have a magic serum. It really works.
I come back to the simplicity because that's really a key question. And here now you can see your address. Where are you? And where are your neighbor? Beate, you, when we talked before this session, we talked also about the importance of not only talking about the smart cities, but about the good cities. I mean, we want not only to survive, we want to live. We want to live good life. We want to be included. Tell us about your ideas on how you can help Oslo become not only the most environmental friendly, but the best capital to live in.
I don't have the solution probably, but I would like to contribute at least. But I want to say, make sure that, because firstly, Raymond made it easy for me to buy an electric vehicle. So I was probably one of the first women in this country to buy Tesla. He also made it very difficult to me to drive to my job in Bjørvika. So I've stopped using it. You won again. I hate to say it. That said, my concern is actually the people, the emotional connection that is so important for people to take part of what the dugnad Raymond is launching. I'm a citizen with a big C, and I love to be part of this, but I think people need to be emotionally connected. I don't know if you recognize the images shown earlier today. It was from the Green Capital, and it's from Loseter. It's an art-initiated project that I've been running for 8 years. And I believe in soil literacy. I believe in ocean literacy. I believe in emotional connection, that people actually physical experience soil and ocean and become empathic about what's going on. So I think my focus is the people, and I think I'm famous for saying it's all about the people, and you just said it earlier today, because I believe that's the soft risk in this is so crucial, actually.
Raymond, you got really the applaud when you really started to be very concrete on the projects and show the solutions, show that it is possible. But you also have some challenges. I mean, Per Espen talked about making it easy. May I give you one example? Being a parent, and you need to take your kids to play soccer at Voldsløkka just around the corner here. And you come from Drammen or from Nordstrand, Holmlia, whatever, and you bring them into your car after your job, and you take them in your car, and you come up to this area. How do you make it possible? Now it's impossible to get the place to park. How do you balance? How do you balance when you say you want people to take the buses and official transport, but you increase the cost? I mean, at the same time, how do you really make us move faster and better? How do you think about those dilemmas?
It's a lot of dilemmas because we are in a transition period. The cities are growing, Oslo as well. And it's also an issue about space. So it means that people cannot continue to go even with their Tesla to Bjørvika and in the center of Oslo, because the limitation is space. So therefore, as I mentioned, we need to find, first of all, it's how we travel to work. It's the first thing. And I realize, and I'm very fond of my own car, I'm totally depending on having my own car in my spare time. So that I will continue to have. But first we have to have another alternative when it comes to work traveling. and there the alternative needs to be the public transportation. And then we need to limit the access for private cars. At the same time, we need to improve the access for those who have to drive cars, in businesses and disabled, and also maybe also taxis at the same time. So I realize now we want to do that, and what we have done so far, it's to limited the number of street parking. But if you're going to the so-called parking houses, it's quite expensive, but it's a lot of them there. So it will not be in the future. It will not be possible to park outside a shop. But of course, a lot of people, and I'm struggling a lot with some parts of the businesses in center of Oslo, and because we see at the same time the need for limitation of access of cars, then you have the so-called internet trade, which also have a lot of impact for shops. And then they are pinpointing that it's the limitation of parking stations that is the main reason for the new competition, but it's not true. So therefore, I say we are in a transition period, and we have to work together to find solution, because I'm sure that the next election in Oslo in September will be a lot about this. And if we lose, and maybe we do, then we will also put a strong signal to other cities as well, that we are too hasty, that we are doing it too fast. Well, maybe we are doing it too fast, but the time as we sing it is limited, and we are in a transition period.
So how to motivate people to be part of that transition? Because even you understand that it can be difficult to take your bike to Maxbo and take all the heavy bricks with you. Huh?
Yes. So what you do is you ask your smartphone or whatever interface you need to the smart city, which would be, and the future solution to this is very clear.
Yes.
It's just that we don't know exactly how to move from here to the clear solution. And the future scenario is a smart, integrated, multimodal transport system.
Yes.
That will always calculate how you want to get from A to B, the quickest way, just the way you need it. Because you can use smart technology in very stupid ways. For instance, if everybody buys a Tesla, so we have 100,000 Teslas driving into Oslo, or you have electric cars in a big traffic jam. Stupid system, smart components. What we need is to integrate a smart city strategy. And to do that, in my previous role as a politician, I was pushing for a national smart city strategy. Can I say a few words about that?
Yes, please.
Yes. So what I did was that you always do as a researcher and somebody here at BI, you seek out the best competence. So I reviewed all the literature and also hunted the best people that I could find. Actually, the people within the government previously who used to write for digitalization but couldn't get their voice heard, so they go out. There's something called Smarte byer Norge, Smart Cities Norway. And I interviewed them, where are the barriers? Where can we do smart changes? And then we identified 3, which is that there is no national strategy for how we solve these multimodal transport systems. As Anna was speaking about with Telenor, we know that all infrastructure will be digitized.
Yes.
But we do not know how to make it open and secure so that people can add services to it. So what we need is a national strategy for open and secure smart city infrastructure. Then we also need collaboration projects. And quickly, we also need visions or mulighetsstudier, potential uses, so people can see how this can be used. So we put that in as a proposal and thought, how can anybody disagree with this? It's solidly based, science, social, analytics, the best technology. And what happened was that the parliament voted it down. It was voted down, down, down. And our Minister of Communication and Transportation, Kjetil Solvik-Olsen, an excellent, smart man that I really respect, he was spending a lot of time in Parliament arguing that this would be a Russian-style 5-year plan where you have a rigid structure that would kill local initiatives, and we do not want that. So the people who were competent on this were listening to them. They said, oh, this is embarrassing. It was caught in a political game because it was proposed by the opposition at that time. So
the political barriers can also be a real challenge.
The political games around these
also.
solutions, unfortunately, stop a lot of the innovative drives from the competence networks.
So how, Anne Beate?
I stopped using my Tesla because I understand this. And I think I just want to take you somewhere totally different. Because I also run this artwork, since I'm here as the art director, called Future Library. It's a world-famous artwork, and it's happening here in Oslo. It's about, we're growing a forest up at Nordmarka, and it's getting a lot of attention. I don't spend any money on communication. And I happen to know Margaret Atwood. I've met her several times. And she said, the world's changing. And what we need now are strong new narratives about how the world is changing and how we can change with it. And when I look at this artwork, what is it about? It's about rituals. It's about basic human things that we need and are in need of now. And it's rituals, it's hope. It's a hopeful project because it lasts for 100 years. It believes in people that are here in 100 years. And the journalists ask me, why are you sure that someone will make this work happen? You're dead by the time, and I am. And my reply is always, it's all about trust. I have to trust the coming generations, but they also have to trust us. It's a mutual question. And then Stephen Hawking had mentioned it before he died last year, and he called this a cathedral thinking project. He says we are entering a cathedral thinking era where we need projects like Future Library, started by one generation, finalized by the next one. And we need more of them because these kind of projects will force us to think differently. I've stopped using the Tesla.
Raymond, we will just end now. I mean, what do you want us to do and what will happen so that we can all be proud of Oslo and being a model for capitals around, not only in Europe, but in the rest of the world? Very briefly.
First, what you can do, it's talk to your neighbor and make them proud about the city and to be a European green capital, because this is an award to the people of Oslo for what they have done throughout the years. We have been able to protect the forest for so many years. Now it's possible to go swimming outside Bjørvika. And we have the recycling system, which is very advanced. And now it's more than 50% using the public transport each day. It's the highest rank throughout Europe. So that's, it's possible to reach some small goals. But I want to wind up by telling you one thing I'm quite worried about. It's because we also have a kind of sea and land conflict even in Oslo. Because people who live in the inner city of Oslo sees a lot of improvements. And people who live a little bit outside, also within the border of Oslo, in the suburbs, they think it's even more difficult. And this is the same conflict throughout Europe. And it also has a social dimension. And what's fear me about it is that the well-educated people who knows a lot about the climate change and are eager about being in the forefront, and the traditional, calling the working class, seeing it as just negative things. And at the same time, they believe in knowledge and competence. You see the same things happen in the United States, that the average Americans don't believe in education, university, knowledge, because it's make them a lot of hurdles about their daily life. So that will be really a common challenge for us who are very afraid about the climate change, because everyone needs to come on board.
Raymond?
Therefore, we need to have this vision. Therefore, I start to talk about also the need. If you saw it on television, what's happening in New Delhi, where it's about health. people then need to see that it's possible improvements in their daily life. It's not about restriction and hurdles in their daily life. It's about breathing. It's about new job creation. It's about a prosperous future. So that vision we together need to draw and to get people on board. So that's the common challenge.
Thank you very much for giving a very good introduction to the last panel. So first we give them a big hand.
Tusen takk. Det er veldig bra. Tusen takk. Så flott. Takk skal du ha. Tusen takk.
Because now we are going to talk about the future of education in the last panel. So please stay with us the last session here. Inge-Jan Henjesand, we have met before. Now we will have the rector of Oslo, Svein Støl, and Mari Sundlitveit from Ås, the University of Life Science, and Julie, which is also the chairwoman for the student union. And I would like just to start to ask you, Svein, what do you do now at the University of Oslo, being such a big university? How do you think?
I think let's see if it's on. It's on. I think, first of all, we should contribute to many of the Sustainable Development Goals. When we are looked into by the ministries, it's often about education. But of course, being a comprehensive university of European class, we really need to address almost all of these issues. So that's important. But talking about education today, I think that in addition to new solutions, in addition to contribute with knowledge to a knowledge-based politic, to contribute with companies, innovation, and so on, we really need to focus on the studies, the students, the education. That's extremely important, I believe. To educate people that have the belief in knowledge, Raimond's point is extremely important. To have students with competence, with a right mindset, with the right perspectives is important. We really need to educate engaged students that are able to put their own studies into a societal context. That's extremely important. So today, while we are here, some of our students are taking part or arranging a fixers party in Bergen, where they try to collect electronic goods that are not working and trying to repair it. Going from a situation where repairing is a kind of old-fashioned poor man's work to something cool and new, and that's important. The other thing that we need to do, I believe, is extremely important. We have a global responsibility. So I should like to say that capacity building for the Global South is extremely important. So we know that if you invest in higher education in the Global South, the return of investment is much higher than if you invest in primary education. For that reason, this is a focus for us. We have the Health Information System program from the informatics department that also creates a program for taking care of pregnant women and the health of women in all parts of the Global South. It's a standard it's used in 67 countries. More than 30% of the world population are potential users of this free software. And of course, this is extremely important. We build capacity in the countries where they live. And I should also say that we are also looking towards Africa in a more in a dimension of building good universities. Through our European network, the Guild, we are looking into the ARUA, the network of the best African countries, in order to build stable, good universities that can educate people themselves. Not only to educate people in Norway, but to build institutions that are really the future for these countries.
Wonderful. Mari, what about the
us?
university at Ås?
Yes, NMBU, the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, we see ourselves as the sustainability university. And to us, that's also a brand that we can share, because the more the merrier when it comes to solving these global challenges, and we all need to do our very best in the efforts. But when you look at our let's say, thematic academic structure at NMBU, we are almost like academically tailor-made for these challenges. the range, the diversity of scientific fields that we have, the size even, but also the very strong tradition that we have in working interdisciplinary. In working interdisciplinary with very many people together on complex issues on the ground, like concrete, challenges that need to be solved. We've done that since the very beginning. So this is the way of working that we have. And now very quickly I have to say, this doesn't mean that we're all happy about the situation. We don't need to do any changes. To the contrary. We see this as a wonderful starting point. It's an ability for us in helping make these changes. And for me, with ability comes responsibility. So I feel the responsibility for these global challenges and meeting the SDGs. I feel it like weighing heavily because I think we really can contribute. And since we're at the business school, I'm going to talk about our business school because we have a very good one. And I have the dean sitting here. And our business school is currently going through a thorough transformation where sustainability becomes the very backbone of what we do. And I think it will be the backbone of future markets, of future trade, of future risk assessment, of the whole economy. And I think we had the perfect starting point for doing that transition, but I'm just so happy that we see it very thoroughly happening. And I'm hoping and I'm challenging you to do the same thing, so I'm going to hear from him very soon. So as you understand, we've sort of been doing this forever, but I still feel that it's only a starting point and it will require great effort from us also. And in our new strategy, which is obviously all built around the SDGs, it's the heart of our new strategy, we are looking into, okay, so where do we need to put our efforts? Where do we need to transform in order to have a stronger contribution to the SDGs? We have to work interdisciplinary. We have to be expert. We have to be experts in teams, and we have to work especially with education, because our students, they will be game changers. They will be trailblazers. They will be drivers of this change, and we have to enable that. So if I feel you want me to give the microphone probably over to someone else. If I get it back later, I'll talk to you about the education. Thank you.
We'll do that. Julie, you are students. They all tell that you are the future, but you are also the resources of today, and you will be the ones that expect. And you get the qualification through your studies now. So what do you, as students, expect, not only from BI, but from all universities, to the challenges you will face tomorrow when you are finished with your studies?
Well, I think the most important thing to say, and the first thing is that people, they will not be interested in sustainability if they don't know about sustainability, if the importance of it is not communicated efficiently. So that's the first expectation, that we learn what we actually are about to do. That's critical. Talking about risks today, what is the risk of not educating us in the proper way?
So what do you want them to do?
Ideally, as you're saying, sustainability should be a core in every single course. It should be integrated throughout all of our learnings, because sustainability will be part of all businesses once we're out. So there's no point in having one sustainability course. It should be part of every single industry lecture and so on.
Totally integrated.
Yeah.
So then I will challenge you. And Jan, what will be your answer to that? And what will be your solutions? What kind of initiatives will you all take now?
Yeah. As I mentioned in my short introduction earlier today, I think that, of course, we can have, to be really concrete, we see that we have courses in sustainability. I think the really change will happen when we have sustainability or the issues related to sustainability into all disciplines at the business school and all universities as well. Because then it's challenging the theories that we believe in. And they are strong in the disciplines, not in sustainability.
Yeah.
So it's really about the disciplines that we have, not only in business school, but everywhere else. So I think to really challenge academics about what does this mean? And the challenge then is to realize that the balance between being normative and research-based, because that is an interesting challenge when you are in my position, because I want us to focus on this. At the same time, I have to have an organization that is research-based. Exactly. So we need to kind of balance the normative aspects of it and the research-based. And I think that in the panels, in the presentation today, we see a lot of illustrations that research-based knowledge is kind of driving it. So integrating it into all disciplines, and then you have to rely on the disciplines to integrate it. See what I mean? It's not for me to integrate it in all disciplines. I have to challenge the academics at BI to do that.
Svein, before we end up today, I mean, everyone has really pointed out the importance of education, of competence, and to change and the transition. So what will be your future initiatives now, in addition to what you are doing today?
To answer also to your question a little bit, I think that, to be fair, we need to be evidence-based when we produce new study programs. And for me, it's a big difference between teaching and education. Each course is something, but what is important is to integrate the sustainability into the programs. That's extremely important. And I believe we need also to look into educational research in order to guide how we develop our educational programs. So I think that's one of our main themes, to use more resources on educational research. We also have a large focus on digitalization. So we, in fact, have established something called Computing and Science Education that really integrates in all parts of science now, but now we also take this digitalization into social science and humanities and all sorts of programs. That's extremely important. So if you combine the facts, the knowledge, the critical thinking with the digitalization and the educational understanding of what works and not works when you educate, then I believe we can produce what we really need to produce: good students, critically thinking students that are changing the future.
Thank you. And Mari?
Yes, sustainability is not the icing on the cake. This is the backbone, as I already said, and we need to know where in the programs throughout this happens. We need to, it needs to be fully integrated in every course. And I think that goes, whichever study program you're majoring in, that should be the case. And obviously we're still going to be educating experts, people with heavy competences, but we have put too little effort into what we call future skills, which are more generic skills that any student or any candidate will need to go out and make these changes in the world. And it's about critical thinking, as Svein was saying, but it's about cooperation, about being able to be an expert in a team that's constantly changing, and it's international, it's global. It's being confident and comfortable about being a driver of change. I mean, these people are not going to be in the same job for 25 years or 40 years or whatever. They will be in a constantly changing world, and they're going to have to not only thrive with it but drive it, and so they really need courage, risk willingness. They need that confidence and the ability to think outside the box and see new links and solutions, entrepreneurial skills and so forth. So to make this happen, we're also very we're very focused on linking education, research, and innovation. Innovation is in a broad sense closer together, so that we get these skills also out of that. So we're working very actively on that.
Thank you. And Julia, are you an optimist now? Are you hopeful at least? about to see the change you want?
Yes, I am. And what I was about to say is that my biggest concern is that this doesn't happen quick enough. We will be graduating in 6 months, a year, year and a half. Will it happen by then? Because then we will be resources in the business industry. Can you allow us to be the greatest citizens and future drivers that we can be? And universities are in a unique position in itself to do research and to do education, and most companies would dream of being in a situation to affect and to contribute as much as universities can and will do. And I hope that you're just not working by yourself. If you're experts already, then great, please share so that we can move faster and become greater today.
And that's what the Explorer actually is all about. Exchange, cooperate, learn, and do the matchmaking. Is that okay? Do you want a very, very brief comment, Mari and Ingjald?
Young people are losing their patience.
Yeah.
That was said. Greta Thunberg, she said it. You're saying it. And the last generation to be able to make these changes, that's you. And you're with us now. So it has to happen now.
So we're talking about today and tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you heard what Per Espen was talking about, the time from research to textbook, I think we should go directly from research and skip the textbook, perhaps. And that's, I think, what is happening also now.
Wonderful. And Svein?
A little bit cold water in the blood, because we also have to look a little bit into the future.
Yeah.
We are working now with strong universities in Europe in order to build a European university. One of the challenges is diversity. I was at King's College on Friday. They are very good on also securing education for less resourceful students and so on. So I think that we should do something today, but we really have some enormous challenges 5-10 years ahead, and we shouldn't forget that when we work on today's problems.
Thank you so much. We also believe in complexity, and we want to do something about it. Thank you so much. Give them a big hand. Then we will just wrap up. And I would like to say, Björn, you have followed it from the first idea. And I would like to say thank you so much, Erik Rasmussen, at that time, when he said we have to turn the risks into opportunities, and we started the process. Björn, the way forward within 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. And this is actually the 5th year we are doing it. And I would just say the idea came from Erik Rasmussen, stand up, chairman of Sustainia. So it is not only about young people. You know, great ideas can come from everybody, okay? Going forward, we are building this partnership on 3 pillars. It is the power of inspiration, ideas, and solutions, and you have seen some of them here today. That is really the core of what we are doing, and that is the core of what we are believing in. The second pillar is the power of education, of knowledge. That's because we are here today. That's because we are so proud that we have 4 universities within our partners now. And that's because we think that is such a powerful component going forward to integrate sustainability and solutions deeply into education. And the third pillar is the power of people. So we really believe in people, and in the Global Opportunity Explorer, we would like to enroll this outside these rooms, outside these conferences, to all stakeholders in society. So my call for action for all of you is that you can bring the report, the online community, to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors, back to your colleagues, to the dinner table, and start the communication. Because that's where we have to go now is to widen the debate. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sven, for moderating the session. Give Sven a big hand as well.
Thank you very much. And then I will end up by saying thank you so much, Inge-Jan, for being a fantastic host. Thanks to all the panelists. Thanks to all of you being here the whole day. And don't forget, it's all about people. Take care of each other, then we can take care of people and planet. All the best of luck. Thank you.